That's the greatest way Brian could have ever started a podcast. Michigan sucks, everybody. Good morning and welcome to another Angle of Pursuit podcast. This is our Sunday morning live stream. We're going to get the ball rolling here with a lot of craziness, Brian. I'm pulling up Shefty's tweets because, all the players are injured today. Curious
Yeah,
to see how the
Julio's officially out.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, which propels Russell Gage. Gurley's already out, which should be Brian Hill. But if we know anything about that situation, it'll probably be Ito Smith or Quadre.
Right. So let's
whatever.
start with Atlanta. We talked about our excitement for backing the Raiders this week at -3. It's only moved to 3.5, which I think is a little strange. I'm guessing it's just because people love betting Atlanta. I'm not really sure. But from a Falcons perspective, from a fantasy perspective, let's start at the running back position with Todd Gurley out, Brian Hill, Ito Smith, neither or both.
I mean, if you're in a PPR league and say you have guys that are hurt right now, say you were Jonathan Taylor, Joe Mixon, fantasy player, Brian Hill makes a ton of sense because he's likely to see the majority of the touches. That being said, last year in 2 games that he played as like the lead guy, he wasn't able to put up big numbers as that the run game for Atlanta has never been successful. And if you look at this year, they're trying to force the issue still, but they're still not getting good yardage or anything like that. So I'm not playing him over a bunch of people.
Okay, so I have a couple names. I as a person who traditionally drafts receiver heavy, he's an interesting name for me. So there's a few running back options. Another running back option that may get some that looks to be the lead dog today, for what that's worth. Jordan Wilkins in Indy. Is he above both of those guys for you?
I would actually lean Brian Hill over Wilkins just for the passing game work that Hill will see. Whereas we know that the passing game work in Indy is ran through Nahim Heinz, and with Jonathan Taylor not there, I think Heinz sees an even increased amount of playing time.
Yeah, and that's the one thing about, like, we had talked even after Taylor's big game about how this could be a week where he doesn't really see as much volume anyways. Like last time he saw 20 carries, there's precipitous fall off. And then this week, obviously he's not going to play, so it doesn't matter. But it was interesting. I think the other name that I'm looking at with James Conner being ruled out is a Benny Snell. Is a Anthony McFarland is interesting. Like of all the names that I've mentioned, like who's your 1, 2, and 3 of those players?
I would probably go Brian Hill number 1, just for the assumed role that he's going to be taking on as like the premier runner for the Falcons. And like I said, they like to force the issue on the ground, and minus a guy like Julio, they're probably going to need to keep the ball away from the Raiders. And then I would go Wilkins second, just knowing that Indianapolis, what they want to do on offense is they want to pound the rock. Phillip Rivers was nursing a turf toe injury, so it'll be interesting to see how much they actually drop him back to pass today. Not that Tennessee offers very much of a pass rush, but, I think they may go a little bit more ground heavy. And then, I probably wouldn't be touching either of those Pittsburgh Steelers running backs. If you're in a league where, like in my league, we're allowing like replacements for the Steelers or Ravens players, I'm okay playing the pass catchers with Roethlisberger, but I'm not touching that backfield.
Yeah, and that game's weird anyways, just because like, I think it's gonna play. I think they're at this point. They've dug their feet in so heavy that this is gonna happen on Tuesday. Whether it's RG3 and a bunch of practice squad players versus James versus Anthony McFarland running the Wildcat with Juju as the lead running back. Like they don't really care.
Yeah,
like figure it out. It's just this week is like it's just all of it. It's a comedy of errors. It's all stacking up, and it's gonna get real wild.
Yeah, and we've said it for the past few weeks now. Like we thoroughly need to enjoy this week because we don't know if the next week is actually going to get here with the increased amount of COVID cases that are happening right now. Like, one thing that I'm like extremely adamant about is I'm going all in on my gambling. I'm going almost all in on all DFS because we don't know if the next week is coming. So let's just enjoy it for what we have right now.
Yeah. What other injuries? Like, let's go back to Atlanta for a minute, because Matt Ryan is somebody that in theory should be in a good spot here. But in theory, the theory of Matt Ryan, kind of like the theory of Matthew Stafford. Like, no Julio. This is an offense that traditionally struggles significantly without Julio in there. They obviously have no Gurley, so maybe more checkdowns to Brian Hill. Like, if you're a Matt Ryan, if you're rostering Matt Ryan, is like, where do you look for other options? Like, how low are you comfortable going? I can pull up some names here.
I'm comfortable going with the Teddy Bridgewater, who we know when he's back there playing quarterback for Carolina, they want to throw the ball, and it's a lot of efficient passes against the Minnesota Vikings defense that is one of the worst in the NFL at defending the wide receiver position. Leaving it open for Bridgewater to connect on those short passes, letting his guys do their thing. I would go Daniel Jones probably over Matt Ryan this week, just for his rushing upside against a poor Bengals defense. And then, obviously the most obvious one is probably Ryan Fitzpatrick going up against a Jets defense who is down to like their fifth best corner as their number one guy. So I don't think Matt Ryan is a must start by any means this week, minus Julio. I do like his pieces. I think we see another situation where they may find it difficult to get into the end zone, but I think that the receivers or like a Brian Hill will put up decent numbers in terms of PPR production because they will be passing a ton. It'll be up. I think you'll see Russell Gage show up again in our, the fantasy world, because he'll be running out of the slot probably now that Julio's gone, more Calvin Ridley on the outside. So I'm not putting my faith in Matt Ryan whatsoever after being burned multiple times already.
Yeah. We got questions rolling in. If you're joining the show and you have fantasy questions, feel free to drop them. Brian and I will give you our thoughts on the situation. Brian, Austin Eckler's back, and per rap sheet, it sounds like he's going to be busy. The Balaj barrage has come to an end. So we have a question in the chat. We have Austin Eckler in his return. We have Allen Robinson against the Packers with the young Mitchell Trubisky under center, and we have AJ Brown, and we're looking for one flex position.
Oh, I think this is a smash home run, Austin Eckler over those two guys. Just regardless of whether or not they're trying to limit his touches, he's never been an every down role player to begin with. So even if he's only playing 50% of the snaps, you're probably still looking at 12 to 15 touches out of Austin Eckler.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I still, my fascination with AJ Brown, I think he has big play upside, but Eckler's definitely the safest option. I'm trying to look for a tweet that I saw so I can give context to where is it? Twitter resetting everything, so I can't just click on my face at the top and then go to my retweets is
it's very annoying.
All right. So Rap Sheet basically said there's significant carries for Austin Eckler today. So I like Eckler. So Brian wrote an article, as he does each and every week, over on fakepigskin.com, where he gives you some starts and he gives you some sits and some players that he is looking to avoid if he can, and players he's looking to start if he can. Brian, we have one of those names ending up in one of these questions. He has Austin Eckler. He could sit James Robinson or Miles Sanders and play Eckler, and then in theory play, AJ Brown or Allen Robinson in the flex. What say you?
Yeah, I mean, if you read the article, I'm not as high on Robinson as other people will be. Just kind of, even though he's getting like 100% of the running back touches, I think that the opportunities are going to be so limited today against this Browns team that is going to completely control the game. I'm looking at them nearing 40 minutes of time of possession today, and Jaguars maybe finding the end zone once. So I think the Chargers-Bills game is going to crush the over at 52. I think the Eagles and Seahawks, that offense is going to be funneled through Miles Sanders and Rager and Dallas Goedert. So I would play Eckler over James Robinson if it was me, but I would play all three of those guys and flex out Allen Robinson at the wide receiver position, because if I had to choose four of those five, I'm choosing AJ Brown,
No,
Eckler,
you gotta
Robinson,
choose.
Miles Sanders.
You have to choose three of them.
Oh, Eckler, Robinson, Sanders, just for the touches. I'm not a fan of AJ Brown.
Yeah, it's because he's too good at football. I could see that.
He is a monster. Yes.
Yeah, I can't sit any of the running backs as much as it hurts my soul to do that. I think you have to play the running backs. Let's talk about the Saints Broncos game, because there's obviously a lot going on. Do you want to start with the nonsense that is Denver, or should we start on the other side where we get another week of the Taysom Hill circus extravaganza?
Well, I think for Denver, it's a quick conversation of you're not starting anybody. Let's just put it at that way. The over-under in this.
Go ahead.
The over-under is 36.
What if you're starting Kendall Hinton? Is that not good? Not the right? Is that not the right move?
You're in a full desperation mode. There's no chance he gets anywhere near the production that you can get out of even like a middle of the road wide receiver that gets 5 receptions. Denver is not going to be throwing the ball a ton.
Let's play a game. Kendall Hinton or Antonio Brown.
Oh, give me AB.
Mike Williams.
Give me Mike Williams, man. I think that Chargers-Bills game is a shootout.
T. Higgins with Ryan Finley or Brandon Allen.
Brandon Allen. I'm going T. Higgins. I'm not touching the Hinton guy until if it was a better matchup in an offense that say they had a few days to prepare. Yeah, I might think about it. But the fact that he's got called up from the practice squad yesterday, I think there's a good chance that takes only 50% of the offensive snaps in the backfield, and you see a ton of Wildcat.
So that was my thing. Is I think there's the concern being, penciling him in for all the touches. Like if we knew he was going to get all the snaps, I could be more optimistic.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like there's a good chance that Royce Freeman gets some snaps. I have a feeling that Melvin Gordon and or Philip Lindsay see snaps and they run a read option with each other. I don't know. So if we're seeing a low total, we're seeing a Broncos offense that we don't trust. From a Saints perspective, is it Kamara, Thomas, and that's it? Like, what about Taysom Hill? Are you comfortable going there?
This is a really tough game to kind of look at from a fantasy perspective, even in terms of Alvin Kamara. I know most people have him as a top 5 option today, but I'm slightly worried about what we're going to see out of this offense, because Denver's defense is not a pushover. Like they've produced pretty admirably over the past few weeks, and they know that in this game, minus a quarterback, that their offense also is going to be just running the ball, which even though it is against the best run defense in the NFL, they're not going to get stopped and gain no first down. So they are going to have some form of time of possession. And going up against the Denver team, Taysom Hill's not going to be able to do what he did last week to Atlanta. So I think this game does still hit the under of 36. So I'm staying away from Taysom Hill. I think Michael Thomas is more of like a wide receiver 2, and Alvin Kamara kind of drops to that back end RB1 and high end RB2, which is insane to say, knowing that they're probably going to be using a ton of Latavius Murray again.
Yeah, I'm looking at that total and saying, I know the Broncos have some garbage at quarterback, but like, are we sure the under of 36 in today's NFL is even a possibility? Like, I feel like one of us could play quarterback for the Broncos and the game could still go over.
Well, yeah, that would be because I'd throw 50 interceptions and possibly fumble every time a guy was coming in to hit me. But yeah, that's a good point.
Benji has a question. DK Metcalf or Calvin Ridley? I think ideally you play them both, but I think if you only play one, it's DK.
Man, it's tough because Calvin Ridley is going to get pretty much the majority of the looks from Matt Ryan, whereas DK Metcalf in games where the opposing team puts their number one corner on him, there has been times where he's struggled, but in terms of touchdown upside, I like Metcalf. Ridley, I think, has a safer floor of 5 to 6 catches. Honestly, I think you could flip a coin and you're going to get similar production out of the two, just in two different ways.
Yeah.
Like Metcalf will have the big chunk play, probably a touchdown, whereas Ridley, I think, will have the volume and have a few more receptions than DK.
Sea Dog starting Terry and Will Fuller seemed to work pretty well for you on Thursday, so I think you're off to a nice start. So yeah, I think playing the 3 running backs to complement those 2 players at receiver, I think you're gonna be sitting pretty come the end of Sunday. Brian, what other injuries or games are interesting to you? Anything else jumping out? Anything you're considering this morning as you set DFS lineups, as you set your fantasy lineups?
Well, sticking with that Atlanta game that we were kind of talking about, I do think it's interesting that the Raiders, even though Jalen Richard was healthy, he was ruled an inactive today, meaning that the Raiders are rolling with Booker and Jacobs, and that's all. And I think that Josh Jacobs, who I was kind of down on to begin the week against a pretty good Atlanta run defense, I think he's actually going to see some pretty good playing time today, some time in the passing game as well. I think he makes for a good value in DFS too, as he's like the 4th or 5th most expensive guy.
Yeah. So Jacobs is interesting because I'm with you. I think he's heavily involved, especially in a game that we both expect the Raiders to be up in. And when the Raiders are up and playing well, especially on the road, they tend to lean a lot more on the running back. So yeah, this could be a Josh Jacobs like 95 yards and 2 touchdowns kind of day. Let's go through the rest of the games. We still comfortable with those Jets after being kind of excited about taking their money line, Brian? Brian, we're taking the money line?
I'll take them with the 7 now. That's even more enticing with a full touchdown at home. Yeah. I still like the Jets to cover this.
Yeah. I don't have a ton of bets in today. I did get the Browns before it went to 7.5, which I'm excited about.
I got the Saints at 6, so let's.
Oh, they didn't cancel that on you?
No, they didn't cancel that one. And just to remind folks, that line currently is sitting at 16.5.
Jesus.
That's why it pays to pay attention.
Honestly, at this point, I think that you owe it to yourself to bet the Broncos plus 16.5 and have the Saints win by 10 or 12 or 13, because I think that's very much in play.
Oh, yeah. No, I'm not kidding. I think this game could be like both teams run the ball over 40 times.
All right. Okay. So we need 1. We got Nahim Heinz. We got DJ Moore. We got Jacoby Myers, or we got Jamison Crowder. Full PPR. Looking for a flex.
Oh man, full PPR. I mean, we know what Jamison Crowder does with Sam Darnold at quarterback. He normally sees upwards of 13, 14 targets every game with Darnold back there. Mm-hmm. But I would probably be leaning Nahim Heinz. I know it's sketchy because you don't know how Indianapolis is going to rotate those running backs, but minus Jonathan Taylor, Nahim Heinz from week 1 was shown to be their chosen back in crucial situations, in passing down work, near the goal line. I think Nahim Heinz is anywhere from 15 to 18 touches today.
Yeah, and I have a little bit of concern because he did have the 2 touchdowns against Tennessee a couple weeks ago.
Yes.
And usually that going back to that, it doesn't always seem to work out, but the situation dictates that probably Heinz is the answer. Jacoby Myers is so frustrating. 6 targets, 10 targets, 14 targets, 7 targets. Then we say, play Jacoby Myers. He's getting the volume. He looks good. The game against Houston's a great matchup. As it happens, 3 targets, 3 catches, 38 yards.
And now Damiere Byrd goes up.
Now he's Damiere Byrd has the game we thought Jacoby Myers would have. Now we're sitting in another spot where Jacoby Myers, in theory, has another good opportunity against Arizona. is he someone see the problem with me for him is I don't know that I trust him enough, even with a few weeks of really, really good volume, to be able to go back to him after a crappy week. Is that crazy, or should we be going, hey, that was a blip, let's go back to the guy who before then had 4 straight weeks of solid volume?
I would lean on the side of caution with that New England passing game, because you never know who it's going to be from on a week-to-week basis. I know some of those games that Myers was balling out, N'Keal Harry wasn't active in those games, or James White wasn't there. So you knew that there was something from that offense missing, and we saw it last week. Cam Newton was unafraid to go to Jameer Byrd, to go to N'Keal Harry now that he's back, to throw it to Rex Burkhead and James White. So I'd be avoiding those guys. He's more of a wide receiver 3, low-end wide receiver 3. I'd be looking at better options. And in terms of those guys listed, it's Heinz and Crowder, and then the rest in terms of PPR rankings, because DJ Moore is more of like a big play guy. Yeah,
especially now that Teddy's back under center. He should be he's kind of the third banana, unfortunately. I got a couple of running back questions. We got Gio Bernard or the return of Raheem the Dream Mostert today.
It's probably unpopular this week, but I'm sticking with Gio. I just think even with Brandon Allen back there, I think you see more checkdowns, more screens. I think they get more, not necessarily conservative, but I do think you see them get Bernard involved slightly more in the passing game than he has the past few weeks.
It's Raheem the Dream for me. He makes this offense go, and I already talked about it on the betting show how I think the Niners make this game interesting. I think it's a lot closer than the line says. And I think he produces a real nice spot here. Now, a couple passing down backs, Gio Bernard or the aforementioned James White.
I would probably still lean Gio. I just think he's, well, you know what? I take that back. I'm going to go with James White on the off chance that Arizona is able to put up points, on a consistent basis in New England, forcing New England to have to throw the ball. And now minus Rex Burkhead, James White has sole possession of all passing game work for the Patriots.
So I'm looking up Gio Bernard's props just to get an idea of where the betting market thinks he is. His reception total is set at 3.5, Brian, and people are hammering the under. The under is minus 160. The over 3.5 is plus 135. So if you think Gio Bernard is going to get work in the passing game, all he needs is 4 catches, and you're cashing plus money. Receiving yards is set at 22.5. The under is minus 118. The over is minus 105.
I'm going right now.
And then his rushing total is set at 47.5, and the under is taking slight. It's basically minus 110 both ways, but just thought that was interesting.
I'm glad you touched on that, because one of my favorite props of the week is I'm going to go back to this just to keep putting salt in the wound for you, but Zach Moss's rushing yards total started at 37.5 in a game against the Chargers team who is averaging giving up over 100 yards and at least 1 touchdown over their past 5 games. I don't think it's out of the question that you see another performance like Moss had a couple weeks ago against New England, where he put up 80 plus and 2+ touchdowns. So I think that's kind of an absurd number, being the traditional kind of runner for this Buffalo Bills team. And I think that for me is like one of my favorite lock plays of the week.
Go for it. I'm done fighting that battle. I have Singletary in a couple of leagues, and he's riding the bench.
I'm glad you've come over to the dark side on that.
Okay, so Hayden Hurst was banged up all week, potentially not going to play. It looks like he's good to go. What do we do with him? Because C-Dog wants to know if he should be playing him or Mike Gesicki.
I mean, minus Julio Jones, those pass attempts are going to have to be funneled through 3 guys, Ridley, Gage, and Hurst. I am slightly worried about the foot injury, and then Ryan Fitzpatrick loves to go to Gesicki, so I would probably go Gesicki this week just with Hurst coming off the injury.
Yeah. I think Gesicki is the option for me as well. Looking up some fantasy points against numbers to get some ideas of how tight ends have fared against these defenses. Obviously, Travis Kelce's lit up the Raiders defense, going for over 100 yards and a touchdown both times. But outside of him, only one player has cleared 50 yards, and they've only allowed 4 touchdowns to the position over 8-9 weeks. So, or I guess 12 weeks. So yeah, I think Gesicki is the answer, especially as you mentioned with Ryan Fitzmagic back under center. Brian, we talked about Nahim Heinz and kind of your expectations for him. Looking for a flex in the PPR. In PPR leagues, he's got Nahim Heinz or Wayne Gallman. He who seemingly scores a touchdown every single week.
Oh, man, this one's so hard because Gallman has seen like 14 plus carries in each of the last 4 games. Like you said, he's got a touchdown in 4 straight. Those were against decent running defenses, and now they get a Bengals defense who's averaging like 5.5 yards per carry. I think for me, it's probably Gallman. I have him as like a top 20, top 15 play at the running back position this week.
Yeah.
It's kind of disgusting, but I mean, if you're just looking at what they're doing.
Wayne Gallman definitely has the touchdown equity upside. Looking at his rushing props, the props are set at 56 to 60, 56, 58, 60 yards for rushing. And people are hammering the over. He should see plenty of attempts in a game where we both think the Giants can not only win but cover. It makes a lot of sense. The receiving yard should be there. And he's basically even money to score touchdowns. So yeah, I think like Heinz has the ability to get like 120 total yards and 2 touchdowns, but could also get you 3 carries for 13 yards and 4 catches for 12 yards and not much else. I think Gallman's definitely a much safer option, much more reliable option. This obviously not having Jonathan Taylor helps Heinz to have a safer floor. But yeah, I think I'm with you. It's Gallman and yes, Eckler, fire him up. We got a quarterback question. We got Cam Newton against Arizona or Fitzmagic against the Jets.
Oh, I'm going Cam Newton. Everyone's kind of down on him after disappointing last week. He still threw for 370 yards in a game where they're going to have to put up points against this Cardinals offense. So yeah. I love Cam going up against the Cardinals defense that has not been scary, to say the least. I think he's able to get – I like his rushing yards prop this week. It's under 40. So I'll be betting the over on that. I like him to run for another touchdown against this Cardinals defense. I think Cam Newton is the play.
Well, and then from the Dolphins' perspective, like they have Devontae Parker, Mike Gesicki, and that's kind of it, right? Everybody else is injured. All the running backs are all banged up. So
it's the Matt Breida show today, though.
It only took us 12 weeks, but we got here. Matt Breida is happening. Matt Breida is happening finally. Yeah. Quarterback, Jesus. You have to start Justin Herbert or Kyler Murray. That's
damn. Come on. I'd probably lean Herbert because I do.
Know. But that means we're sitting freaking Kyler Murray, bro.
I know, but I think for me the difference here is the coaches that they'll be facing. I think that Justin Herbert going up against the Bills, who have been pretty bad over the last, over the season, they're averaging close to like 30 points given up to opponents. Oh, and by the way, before we progress, the Chargers team total over under today is only 23.5.
Over.
Bet the over.
Over.
Whereas like Kyler Murray, I think there's a good possibility that you do see New England be able to kind of run the ball on them, limit the possessions of the Cardinals. You've seen it this year where the Cardinals have had possessions where they go 3 and out because they run a lot of dumb plays. And Cliff Kingsbury is not the greatest time clock management guy. So I would probably be going Justin Herbert in a game that I do think, like I said, is going to be a boat race. You're going to see tons of points. Austin Eckler's back, who Buffalo Bills – they're not going to be able to tackle that guy. And then the Chargers are going to use Troy Pope, who's like an Austin Eckler clone. Yeah. Give me Herbert.
Yeah. So the Patriots have seen Lamar Jackson and Deshaun Watson in back-to-back weeks. Now they get Kyler Murray. I do worry that Kyler runs for like 120 total yards and just does circles around this offense, like a little like what's the cat and mouse show, Tom and Jerry. He's just like Jerry running around the defense. But no, I think Justin Herbert is the play. I think it's this game sets up really well where either he throws for like 250 yards and 3 touchdowns in the first half, and then the Bills make a comeback and then he throws again in the fourth quarter, or he starts off a little slow. The Bills build a nice lead and then he chucks all over them in the second half I think 300 yards and three touchdowns is very, very likely today. For his running backs, Miles Sanders or Raheem the Dream, I think you have to go Sanders, right?
Yeah, I just think that Philadelphia, in order for them to stay in this game with Seattle, they're going to have to lean on Miles Sanders and avoid any of the dumb mistakes that Carson Wentz has been making. So Sanders is the clear choice.
I want to get like the Office meme where they're all pointing at each other, but put like Matt Ryan, Matt Stafford, and Carson Wentz head on all the people and have them all pointing, because I think that would be hilarious.
And there are reports coming out of Philly that they've been having Jalen Hurts take a lot more first team reps, which means there's quite possibly going to be a little more read option going on. And give me Miles Sanders.
Getting Jalen Hurts in like the third round of a Superflex Dynasty League is looking like it might pan out really, really nicely starting next year. We'll see. So if you're joining the show, please feel free to drop questions. We got a question about the Broncos. Brian, are you starting any Denver Broncos? Because you seem a lot more pessimistic. No Philip Lindsay, no Melvin Gordon.
No, I was already down on them coming into the week, even if they had a competent quarterback playing back there, and now it's even worse with
Yeah, but you're saying competent quarterback, but we're also talking about Drew Lock and Jeff Driscoll and.
I know, but this Hinton guy, he hasn't thrown a pass in like 3 years. I don't know. I just have zero confidence in Denver to be able to do anything, and much like I predicted with the Browns being able to just control the game. I think I saw somebody this morning on one of the pregame shows say this could quite possibly be the fastest NFL game of all time, with both teams just running and not passing very much. So, the scoring opportunities aren't going to be there. The amount of plays aren't going to be there. So I'm avoiding that offense altogether.
Yeah. It would really depend on what your other options are. I think if you have anything decent, you have to lean especially over like Melvin Gordon or Philip Lindsay. But I don't hate taking a shot, and I don't hate taking the shot on Hinton as like a wide receiver if you're desperate, and seeing what happens.
You really have to be extremely desperate to be playing this guy.
Let me look at like who I because I'm playing him in a couple leagues, and I'll let you know like some of the names, because I think playing him over like Mike Williams, I think, is a great idea. Or what about Jamison Crowder, Jacoby Myers, in say a half PPR league?
Nope, I can't do it.
Okay.
I just don't see a world with this with the total that this game has been set at currently, and with the line that we're seeing here of New Orleans minus 16 now. I don't see the volume being there for him to be able to put up the kind of production that warrants even starting a guy playing quarterback at wide receiver, knowing that in all likelihood he's not going to be taking every snap back there. So
Corey Davis or Kendall Hinton.
I like Corey Davis today. He's got 2 consecutive games of 5 catches and over 65 yards. So, and the last time they played the Colts, he was actually the guy who saw the majority of the looks. So
I know. It took a while to get there, but he got there. This week's going to be fun. I'm excited to fire up all the TVs and watch the game. The Broncos game will get some attention.
Oh, definitely. That's a must-watch TV.
Yeah, I want. It's one of those things. It's like a car car wreck. You can't look away, but you can't also not watch. Like it's like, oh, I don't want to watch, but oh my God, look what happened now. I'm telling you, man, 40 points in that game. Like, even if can the Broncos score 6?
Yeah, I think there's a possibility they can get, because if they can get anywhere near the 40-yard line of the Saints, Brandon McManus can make a 60-yard field goal. So I think
3 or 4 field goals from McManus, and then all we need 20.
I don't see New Orleans putting up more than 24 either. I just think that because this game is going to play out the way that we're kind of looking at it, I don't think they're going to be pushing the issue down the field either. That's why Taysom Hill for me is actually a sit, because they're not going to be having to force the ball. I really don't think they're going to force him running, knowing they have another matchup with the Falcons next week.
So would you play Taysom Hill or Cam Newton?
Oh, Cam Newton. And I don't think it's even close this week.
Taysom Hill or Matt Ryan?
I'll go down with the ship, and I would play Matt Ryan against the poor Raiders pass defense.
We have a question from the chat with a couple more names I think could be good for Taysom Hill, but if we're looking at just Phillip Rivers or Ryan Fitzpatrick, who do you like?
I'd probably lean. Man, the matchup is so nice for Fitzmagic, but I'd probably lean Rivers just because they're at home. The last time these two teams played, he threw for over 300. There's a possibility that Miami absolutely destroys the Jets, and my Jets +7 pick is horrible. And then Fitzpatrick throws 20 passes. So, yeah, I'd probably go Rivers.
Yeah, the Titans secondary isn't great. And without Jonathan Taylor, although Jonathan Taylor, like, I didn't expect him to have a big game here. But Rivers has been pretty solid, and he's been seeing volume. And while I don't feel great about starting any one Colts pass catcher, just because every week it seems to be a different guy, whether it's all the tight ends, whether it's Trey Burton getting a lot of looks, whether it's Michael Pittman, whether it's Zach Pascal, or throwing 12 targets towards T.Y. Hilton only for him to catch 2 or 3. There's just so many options, so many potential mouths to feed. And if Nahim Heinz has a big game in the passing game, that helps Phillip Rivers. So yeah, Fitz is definitely tempting, but I think Rivers better matchup indoors, more options to throw the ball to. So I would lean that way.
Yeah. Okay. So I have a question for you, staying on that Colts offense here. So I'm in a situation where I can play either Michael Pittman or Allen Robinson, knowing that Pittman has tons of competition for targets, but Allen Robinson has Mitchell Trubisky throwing him the ball.
You mean Mitchell the GOAT Trubisky?
Yeah.
What's the worry there?
And probably seeing shadow coverage from Jair Alexander, who's probably one of the top 3 or 4 corners this year.
I think you still have to go with Allen Robinson.
I mean, that's kind of I'm leaning the same way, just with the amount of volume that he sees, but just knowing that Trubisky is going to be throwing him the ball, and Trubisky is worse than Blake Bortles in terms of like his downfield accuracy, so it slightly worries me.
Yeah, I get it, but well, then just go with Pittman. Hopefully the problem with Pittman is he like Jacoby Myers saw volume, and then all just dropped off the table. So it could go back today. I think he's really good, and obviously he's got the ability to, even if he only gets 2 or 3 catches, to blow up.
Break one, yeah.
He definitely has more upside, but A-Rob I think is probably a little safer, even though you hate young Mitchell. All right. Any more questions in the chat? Please drop them if you have them. How's SFB going, Brian? Are you still rocking and rolling over there?
Oh yeah, I'm currently sitting with one of the last buys going into this week. I'm still one of the top 100 scorers this season overall. this week I get my 2 quarterbacks back, Josh Allen and Kyler Murray, so that'll be nice. And then
what a week to get those guys.
Oh yeah, and then most of my guys have great matchups, so I think I'm in good shape.
Nice. I'm glad one of us is having a good season in SFB.
Well, like you said, was it last year? Maybe it was last year when I got in for the first time, and my team was absolutely horrendous. And you even said that, like, normally it takes a year or two to get adjusted.
It takes
to
a couple of years. Like, I think and then he changes it every year or two, which makes it even harder. But yeah, it took me, I think, I want to say 2 seasons, and then it finally clicked the next year, and everything came together. So yeah, it sounds like you have a good team, and it sounds like everything is coming together. So I'm excited to see.
Okay, real quick, I just noticed line movement at one of our books here has Raiders -2.5 now. Oh, that's first half. Never mind. I got excited for nothing.
To be honest, I kind of like that better than the 3 for the full game.
Yeah.
Because I think the Raiders will be leading at the half, and I think things are going to get wonky in the second half, and that's why I'm concerned about betting that game.
I do think it's interesting that Patriots game has stayed right around the 1.5, 2 mark going into a game. Patriots haven't looked great.
Yeah. The one thing I will say is Gabriel Davis is somebody that you should be playing today.
I have him in a ton of DFS lineups. He's only $3,000. I think he makes a ton of sense if you're making Bills Chargers stacks. If you just want to stack that game all together, you get either Herbert or Josh Allen, Keenan Allen, Stephon Diggs, and then you have a ton of salary saver with Gabriel Davis at only $3K.
Yep. Yeah, I like the idea of Allen, Diggs, and Davis with Keenan Allen, or Diggs, Davis, and Josh Allen with Keenan Allen as the other piece from the other offense, and get at least 4 of those names. Maybe even go Austin Eckler and get crazy.
I was just going to say, I have a lineup where I basically stack the entire game. I have Herbert as my quarterback, Austin Eckler, Keenan Allen, Stephon Diggs, and Gabriel Davis.
Yeah, and I think that makes a ton of sense. And I think that is something that could help you win. Melvin Gordon or Benny Snell?
Oh my gosh.
I think you have to go Snell, as scary as that might be to play him on a Thursday. If with the total being so low with the anemic offense that we're kind of expecting, I think Benny Snell has to be the answer.
Yeah, that is, of course, if your league is allowing like replacement players, because even though it's very remote, there is still a possibility that game gets postponed. But yeah, it would be Benny Snell.
Yeah, but I think even if that game gets postponed, the odds of Benny Snell and Melvin Gordon scoring the same amount of points are pretty close.
That's funny you say that.
Full PPR, we got to pick one, Brian. Brian Hill, Raheem the Dream Mostert, or Nelson Aguilar?
God, come on. Well, with Mostert being active and Tevin Coleman probably won't play, that Jeff Wilson still isn't there, I would probably go Mostert. Definitely over Aguilar. I think it's difficult between Brian Hill, but I do like San Francisco's kind of the way that they run that offense through the running backs. I think it'd probably be Mostert.
Yep, I agree. It's Raheem the Dream for me. I think if he wasn't healthy, the Niners wouldn't be bringing him back to play him. But I think because he's active, because they're playing him, it means he's healthy, he's ready to go, and he's going to be a big part of what the Niners do all day. So I like him quite a bit this week. You want to hear something really gross, Brian? You want to check out my my SFB lineup? Is because I'm ready to have some fun.
Let's hear it.
I got well, Stafford already played because I'm an idiot. Mitchell Trubisky is my other quarterback. My running backs are Frank Gore and Latavius Murray.
Oh my goodness.
My receivers are Gabriel Davis, Mike Evans, Tyreek Hill, Golden Tate, Robert Woods, and my tight ends are Trey Burton and Kyle Rudolph.
Oh, Rudolph should have a nice day, but man, those running backs are brutal.
Well, I have Todd Gurley who's out. I have J.K. Dobbins because COVID. I have Joe Mixon because injured. It's fun because I don't like to draft running backs early, and I loaded up on running backs because I don't want to get stuck in a crappy situation. Here I am starting freaking Frank Gore and Latavius Murray. like it's 2007.
Sounds disgusting.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I did want to mention real quick, I'm noticing I'm looking at the lines right now, and remember what I said about that Bears game? It's creeped down to 8. So I was not the only one. I was not the only one that was on those Bears at 9, hoping it got up to 10. I saw it as high as 9.5 yesterday, and I took it there because I had a feeling it would start creeping down, and it sure did.
So here's where my head's at. I think I almost took it at 9.5 yesterday and didn't because I'm an idiot. I'm gonna keep an eye on that. I could see this if people are having bad days and their bets are going the wrong way, that everyone lines up to hammer the Packers this afternoon or this evening, and that line creeps back up at least to 9.5. So I don't see a situation where that gets to say 7 or even 7.5. So I would, if you like the Bears in that spot, I would be patient and wait and see how the day rolls along and be ready to strike. Like there's already an 8.5.
I'm definitely looking to tease that game though, because if you can get the Bears of 2 touchdowns, that defense is good enough to keep them in this game against the Packers.
Yeah, I feel like that's the case. I sent you my teaser last night, but I'm curious to see where this goes wrong. So I have Cleveland at a pick 'em. We both have Cleveland, so they'll probably lose. I have Cincinnati plus 13. I know the Giants have been covering games, but
one scares me.
2 touchdowns for the Giants for Daniel Jones.
That one scares me. That one scares me for the possibility of a defensive touchdown by the Giants.
They're gonna win on the road by 2 touchdowns. Daniel Jones is gonna win on the road by 2 touchdowns.
No, I'm not saying it's gonna happen, but
no, the one that scares me is Tennessee plus 10, and because I'm. That's my team. I always worry about that. Carolina plus 10 and the Chargers plus 11.5. I got through so many key numbers on those 5, jumping through 3, jumping through 7 in most cases. That I was really, or jumping through 10 and 14. I was really happy to pull that off.
Yeah, those are big numbers in games that should be a little bit closer. Even the Browns and Jaguars. Jaguars right now are 7.5-point dogs. But with the amount of runs that we're going to see in this game, it's definitely a possibility that Cleveland gets up by 10 and they just go full-on ground attack. And the Jaguars should be able to score once or twice on them. So I think that this game hits the under, and then also Jacksonville could cover a 2-touchdown line.
How do you feel about taking the Broncos plus 17 and the over, and then doing a 7-point tease? So you get the Broncos plus 24. And the over is at, I want to say, what is the over? 36, so 29. So the game would have to get to 30 points, and the Broncos would have to lose by less than 24.
That would be beautiful.
I think you could pull that off. I think that would be a nice little 2-team tease. So, any other questions before we get out of here? Brian and I have some lineups to set. I think we got everyone's question answered. We want to get ready for the games today. I'm excited to see how it goes.
And like I said at the top of the show, make sure you thoroughly enjoy Week 12 and any football that we're able to get right now, because at the rate things are going, there is a distinct possibility that the league will have to be put on hold, and or we see a similar NBA style.
It's not happening.
I sure as hell hope not.
You got it. The NFL is going to find a way to keep that money rolling in. I will say, keep an eye on some situations like the Bay Area where the Niners aren't going to be able to practice or play. There's some stuff going into place in Southern California, so that could affect the Chargers. That could affect the Rams. The Lakers and Clippers are supposed to be starting preseason games here shortly. They're cracking down and not letting people play. So. So keep an eye on the situation. I told my league mates that if we got through Week 12, then everyone would be paid out as normal. This is Week 12. We're going to get it, and then we're going to go forward. So we'll see. If you have questions between now and game time, at Notorious KRO, at Greasy Rules 14, at FPAOP, make sure you follow the show. If you are enjoying what we're doing, we're here every single Sunday morning. We're moving the time around. It seems like everybody enjoys our a little bit later start, a little bit later live stream. So let us know in the chat if you prefer us staying on closer to game time, or if you prefer us getting on earlier. But yeah, subscribe, rate, hit the little bell notification so you know when we go live. Brian and I break down the waiver wire. We talk betting cards. We talk all kinds of stuff. So for Brian Twining, I'm Kyle Robert. We'll talk to y'all next time.